decided to start punching each other, so it was a little bit, but yes.
All of this has value.
Yeah. Right.
On vacation.
Oh, well. Here's.
Because each thing, and they know it's not safe for you, but they know that.
Yes, right. And actually, totally annihilate them, maybe.
So listen in. You can't. At that age.
Well, that's the fun thing, is that you're constantly learning the lessons of what you can.
Okay, welcome everyone. We're gonna do actually 2 meetings tonight. We're gonna do the first meeting is do the budget presentation, and then we're gonna do questions and answers from the board and answers, and then questions from the audience as well. And then we'll when that's done, we will move into the regular business meeting. So budget presentation. Sherry, you're on.
So the, excuse me, the budget that has been proposed for next year represents a 2.61% increase in the levy. This is $10,000 under the New York State mandated tax cap. The mandated tax cap is $4,721,910. And the actual levy we're requesting is $4,711,910. So that's $10,000 less. Key elements to the budget. We have contractual salary increases for staff and some hefty increases for health insurance costs as they continue to rise. Library materials spending is increasing by $5,000 to support the physical collection as well as e-materials. Operational costs have remained relatively stable, and we have a built-in contingency for emergencies. Yeah, exactly. And interest rates, although dropping somewhat, they continue to remain relatively high. This provides us with additional operating support as we look to invest, as we look for investment opportunities that don't disrupt our cash flow. We feel that this budget will allow us to continue to provide the community with the highest level of access and service in the next fiscal year and beyond.
Okay, I have a few questions I'd like to ask for the record. First one is, how many full-time equivalents does the proposed budget support?
Well, we have 72 employees in total. And approximately 25 or 27 full-time.
About 20.
Hold on, so I got the answer.
You have the
I
numbers,
do.
okay.
So the FTE is 46.25.
46.2.
And the staff of the 72 total staff people, 34 full-time, 38 part-time.
Okay, does the budget support buying more books than the current budget?
Well, there is a little bit of an increase in library materials to support books and electronic services.
You talked about the tax cap. We're under it by $10,000, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Are there any cuts to the federal or state funding presumed in the budget?
No.
Do you know what the?
Just want to follow up on that.
Sure.
Am I correct that that is because the library's operational expenses largely do not rely on federal or state money?
Correct, so there is, and you can see it down here, income. So for federal dollars, we receive 0.0 federal dollars. There's support that comes. I don't want to denigrate the federal support that comes to the Division of Library Development and the New York State Library that ends up supporting some of our grants and other things. I think that's important work. But as far as our operational budget, which is what we're talking about tonight, no money comes from the things. So not the whatever, if there's cuts at the federal level, nothing. The state level, you can see here that we are budgeting for $26,500 of state aid. That is in the ballpark of what we received. The budget just closed. We don't have those final numbers yet, but that's what we're budgeted to receive in the coming years. It's a significant amount of money. In total, though, when we compare it to the money, it's all local. But the money we get is from the tax levy and the pilots. That's the money that goes.
And I just want to kind of translate that for the public who I know is listening here and Because I think there's been a lot of questions about federal funding for libraries and the IMLF and how that will affect the Bethlehem Library. And the answer is, from a federal funding standpoint, that does not affect the operations of the library, and it has not affected our budget. But it is a detriment to all libraries who rely on state support that is funded by federal funds. For example, I believe that the state library is about to let go of approximately.
Well, I don't know, because that, what is actually going on with federal dollars is completely speculative at this point,
Okay.
right? So
Right.
if that money was to be completely, cut, if IMLS was to cut that money completely, repeat, we do not know that that's the case here, then a significant portion of the folks at the Division of Library Development are directly supported by those federal funds. People at the Division of Library Development oversee our construction grants, they oversee library chartering, there's a lot of other services that they provide to libraries and then to library systems, so it's like a support system for our support system. So that's where that loss would come in, but as far as direct budgetary operational stuff, we do not get any federal dollars. That's just
So again, we are not dependent on federal funds, so that would not affect the library. And even if the state funds did not come in as budgeted, we would still be able to operate.
Right. I wouldn't want to lose $26,500. However,
We do have a contingency built into the budget if something like that should happen, say mid-year.
Yes, and this is one of the reasons.
Plus the budget passed the state level and included a small increase in library.
Correct, yes, and that's one of the reasons we keep reserves. Again, I'm speaking just to explain these things to the public.
Right. Okay, the next question, my last question actually, what is the budget support as far as proposed capital improvements that we want to do?
Well, the budget itself has about $150,000 for capital expenditures, which could be, maybe some furniture or, some smaller items, obviously, because 150,000 doesn't go that far.
Right.
But we do have a reserve of about 1.6 million that is set aside for capital. And we expect that reserve to grow a little bit. We expect to show a little bit of a surplus this year. So I expect that reserve to grow a little bit. Probably not by a huge amount, but maybe by 100,000 or a couple of.
So on the chart, it says we have a fund balance of 1.350 and then 2.57814.
Right, so-
In our packet.
Right.
So the 2.57814 is a fund balance that we don't need to run like. Is that accurate?
Right, that's correct.
Okay. Next.
Okay, I have a couple questions and a couple of points. Again, for the benefit of the public, just understanding what the operational budget supports, like all budgets of organizations, the vast majority of that goes to staff support. Jeff, do we have an exact, what is it usually, the 2/3, more than that?
it's more than, it's like more like 3/4.
It's like 3/4.
Okay, and I just want to say a couple things, the contractual salary increases. I want to make 2 points about that, is that we are in the second year of a union contract with full-time staff.
Oh,
Is it the second? It's the second year, correct?
Correct.
And that had contractually salary increases that everyone negotiated for, and it also included mechanisms to fix some differential in the rates that part-time staff were paid as opposed to full-time staff. So that is also reflected in those contractual salary increases. And, it is certainly notable that we have a 12% increase in healthcare costs that we are assuming. Am I correct that that's approximately double of last year's percentage?
I don't know what last year's percentage was on.
so our base plan, which is a CDPHP plan, went up in the last year, went up 18%. So we have typically budgeted 10, just a long running for the past 10 years, we just budget a 10% increase, and that usually ends up being about where we need to be. In this budget, we assumed a 12% increase just because the 18 was so much higher, it dragged that mean long running average up enough. And I don't see any reason not to expect similar levels of increase going
Okay.
forward.
I just want to make that point that most of this is supporting the staff and then, of course, the resources of the library, because there is a lot of chatter online that this is only about the capital project or that this is a new bond, or there are a number of outlets out there that are calling this the budget and referendum. I'm not sure what it's a referendum on, but that is a completely made up phrase that has been added. This is a budget that is voted on every year, and only a very small portion of it has to do with capital projects and funding. Those are things that we have to work out. Just have one more question about materials. Understanding that there's a little bit of an increase for that. Jeff, am I correct that the highest increase in use of materials continues to be Audible?
E-materials,
Continues to be
it's absolutely
E-materials, but also audiobooks.
E-audiobook specific.
And that not just this library, but all libraries across the country are yet to determine a cost-efficient way to bring that to scale.
I think that's fair. It's the deals for licensing e-materials are less advantageous than, listen, when it's a book, you buy a book, throw it on the shelf. That's it, right? That's a fairly advantageous purchasing model. What I think a lot of people don't understand is that when we buy either an audiobook or an ebook, the library pays several times more than the retail cost of the book to get that ebook. But that's where we're seeing the demand from the public, right? So those increases in demand are on those e-collections, which we can look at later in the meeting and look at those long-running increases. So it's kind of a devil's deal. That's what people want from us, are increasingly e-materials, and there just isn't a really great model for us to do. We do the best we can, and we work with a consortium. Our consortium works with 3 other consortiums to make the size of that collection bigger and bring those costs down. It's just an expensive thing.
Just, I think to say it succinctly, from a purchasing perspective.
Yeah.
For hard books.
Yeah.
For paper books, over years, there have been a number of mechanisms and things put in place where that has become affordable. More affordable for libraries through working with publishers, through working wholesale, things like that. There has yet to be the same system in place for those things that are most on the rise.
Correct. So when we talk about books, our average discount rate for books, for like big mass market books, like 42%. So we not only don't pay the retail cost, we pay significantly less than the retail cost. For e-materials, we don't pay the retail cost, we have to pay significantly more than the retail cost. They understand, what publishers and the Libby and Hooplas of the world understand that that's where the demand is. In their industry, they're saying the same thing. That's all their focus is on those e-materials.
Thanks.
I would also add for the public, 47 people, 47 full-time and full-time equivalents.
46.25 full-time equivalents, of which 34 are full-time, 38.
And how many hours a week is the library? 70?
72 hours.
72 hours a week that the library has to be staffed. Plus, we send librarians to the farmer's market. We send librarians to the retirement homes. We participate with librarians we partner with the school district and with the town at their events, and librarians represent the library there. So there's a lot of demand to have a staff.
Is there other questions or comments board members want to make on the budget?
Well, all my questions have been addressed.
Okay.
But I did, as I often do, want to point out that $185,000 in interest projected for 2025. And that's a substantial amount of money that taxpayers didn't have to work toward, that the library was able to earn that interest. And it's just great that we're able to add that to our budget. It helps out if we should need a contingency for any reason. We can add it to capital projects. It's wonderful, great, and we thank the people that worked on that.
Thank you for serving on the finance committee.
No, thanks.
With Sherry and really developing that investment strategy. It has kept this levy down and it has kept the budget down. So really, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the audience? Yeah.
Can you walk me through a little bit your health insurance, who is covered, how you are covered, who negotiates for you, that kind of thing? Because at 18%, 18% increase.
Yeah.
Is very high.
Yeah.
And a 12% increase, and projected 12% increase is also very high. So I don't know how your employees that receive health insurance receive it. And so I'm interested in how that.
I'm not sure.
Can I just
Yes.
interject before you actually answer
Yes.
this question and say that I think that I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I know the school district is facing a very similar thing and that their increases were equally as high, so I don't think it's just.
I understand that, but a lot of it has to do with the fact of how health insurance is provided
Right.
to your employees. And
So
that's what I'm asking.
Okay,
I'll just.
go ahead. Yes.
Go ahead. So I think there's a couple of things to take into account here. One is that we have a contract with the union.
This is not what I'm asking. You don't have to, I would like you to just answer the question I asked. I know all of this. I was a union representative, okay? I was a school district union negotiator. I sat and negotiated health insurance. I want to know the answer to the question. I don't need any of that.
Well, there's context to the answer. So we'll provide context to the answer. Carolyn, you can answer the question, then Jeff will provide.
So I was just gonna set it up again for Jeff to take in the particulars. And I also wanted to say that if you look at our agenda tonight, there is a piece on there about joining a county consortium in an effort to keep healthcare costs down. So I just wanted to bring that up at the
And
outset.
generally, from what I know about consortiums, both in school districts as well as outside, that is a grossly bad idea. But again, it depends on who it is supplying your insurance, how it's negotiated, who gets it, and that's the piece that I need to.
I'll give you.
Jeff, I'm gonna pitch it to you, but I'm just gonna say that first of all, there is a union negotiated contract that is negotiated by the board. Among one of the things that is negotiated as part of that contract are certain health benefits that go in. I'm saying that again, I understand that you know the details, but we're also speaking to the public as the board, and they may not. In addition to that, we have to take into consideration the healthcare costs of our retirees. And there continues to be retirees. Again, I am teeing that up, not just for you, but for the public. So I'm gonna pitch that over to Jeff to go into
Okay,
detail.
so the first thing to note is, and I think I'm answering your question. I'm not sure I understand 100%. So we are a small group employee. So we are community rated, not experience rated. Like if you're a large employer, you would be rated on the actual experience of how much your employees are using the healthcare. We're a small employer. So we fall under that. We're in a small plan. So therefore we have a smaller plan. And our base plan as negotiated in the contract is a CDPHP healthcare BPO plan.
It's PPO.
EPO.
EPO?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's the plan that we have currently as our base plan. The library does offer a couple of other plans, but they are not the one that's required in the union contract has to be substantially similar to the one that has been right along. That's the language in our contract. So we don't negotiate for that plan. We're obligated to find the plan that's most similar to the plan that the employees currently have. So we have in the past switched. For instance, we used to be part of NISHIP. So we switched away from that in order to save money, and that was a big negotiation with the union, went to CDPHP and have been with them as the base plan for a long time. That doesn't preclude us from switching to an MVP or something as long as the plan document is substantially similar. And we are not a big enough employer to have them write a plan for us. They won't make a plan. So we go along and they have plans that exist and we pick the one that's closest and we talk to the union about that if it's substantially different. And then they, sometimes the CDPHP just drops the plans. They just drop them. And then we have to find one that's the most. So that's how. So our full-time staff, for people who work over 25 hours a week, and basically we don't have anybody that works between 25 hours and full-time. So for the full-time staff, healthcare is offered.
They don't have to.
No, because we have a lot of our employees, or many of our employees have spouses or other their partners who work for other governments, they might work for the state, they might work for another government, and they might offer a more robust healthcare plan and maybe the school district, and then people choose whether to take our plan.
So you have a broker from whom you purchase these plans, or you are purchasing plans directly from?
We purchased the plan from CDPHP. We have a broker from Marshall and Sterling who shops our plan out and gets us the options every year when we try to find a plan that's substantially similar.
And this is a standalone plan, you're not associated with anything from the school district
No,
at all?
we really tried. Actually, in the
I was
past,
gonna say, are you allowed to?
we're not. So
Okay.
we approached the school district consortium because many of the school districts in our region are part of a large school district healthcare consortium. They didn't want us. So we applied, we thought as a school district library, we might be allowed into that, but they stuck with school districts only. I think there was some talk about moving to other kinds of government agencies. And I think school district libraries would have been the first one. And that consortium decided to not move forward with that. So they kept it to offering to the school districts that are members.
And now I'm gonna ask you a personal question, are you also covered under this as a full-time employee, or is it only the library?
No, it's all full-time employees
All
are
full-time.
eligible. It doesn't matter
Okay.
whether they're union or not.
The custodial staff, everybody, okay.
They're, most of the custodial staff is union. So it's not just the librarians that are in the union, but anybody who's full-time here is offered health insurance.
Okay, thank you.
And I should also point out that in the last contract negotiations, that as we were budgeting, there was a lot of conversation about, I mentioned that there are contractual salary increases. We really gave the employees the choice between a higher percentage of a contractual salary increase or a greater contribution toward healthcare costs, and they overwhelmingly chose the contractual salary increases. So just, again, putting that out there for the public that this is discussed. We understand that we have to balance things. And I will also say about that increase is I'm sure is having done this before. You don't know what healthcare costs are going to be from year to year. They can fluctuate wildly. So that that percentage is based on, again, the highest possible fluctuation. We have to plan ahead.
Well, I would put you the highest fluctuation that I have seen is 20%. So, if 12% may not cut it.
So the way we budget, our fiscal year runs July 1st to June 30th, like most school district budgets. Our healthcare year runs January to December. So in any year, like right now, when we cross into July, we will know what our healthcare costs are for the first 6 months. That will have already been locked in. And so the risk, so to speak, of the increase is for the second half of the budget year. So it mitigates, so we can know when we're making the budget, we can know where we are for the first 6 months, and then we can try to guess where we're going to be for the second 6 months. But in any case, by the time we rope around to the second half of that year, we can include that in the budget because it's a known number, rather than having it coincide with our fiscal year, in which case we'd be taking a whole year of unknown costs. So try to split the difference. And so when we come up with 12%, what we're obviously sometimes you can see 20 or 18, which is what we saw this year. It's a long run, like a 10-year average of that increase. We just had been able to use 10 for so long, and usually 8, sometimes 11, but 6, 8, those numbers this year, so we were running along with that increase, and then 8, right? So that's a significant cost.
Okay. So now let's talk about retirees being. Retirees receive the same coverage that your active members do.
Only if they're under 65.
If they're so if they are over 65, then they are Medicare's.
It's a Medicare Advantage plan.
Okay.
At the library office.
Through whom?
CDPHP.
Also?
Yeah.
Okay, and is that an EPO or a PPO, or you don't know? It's okay.
I want to say it's an EPO, but
Right.
I don't really know the answer. It's a Medicare Advantage plan.
Okay, all right, and I forgot to ask you, the employee coverage, the active employees.
Yes.
is only health coverage, or does it include dental and prescription and?
So it does cover prescription, because that's part of the medical plan,
Okay.
but the dental and vision plan, the library offers to employees, but it is fully employee paid.
Okay.
Those plans exist, but they're not, because we get a little bit of a better price than people who pay retail, so we do a group purchase.
Yeah, I'll say that was put on the table for employees, I believe during the last negotiations, and
Well, generally speaking, it depends on the demographic, the age of the employees. If they have never had to use health insurance, very often they don't want to pay for it. It isn't until they get to a point where they or somebody in the family is using health insurance a lot, when they start to understand how important it is to have health insurance.
Right.
So it doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, that's what we offer. We offer 3 plans.
Next question. Is there any other questions from the audience? And do you have any more questions?
Any email questions?
I have an email from Tracy that says it's an EPO for retirements.
Okay, there you go.
No, I don't have any email questions.
Any questions? Okay, great. Any questions from the board, comments?
no, I learned.
There you go. Okay.
It's a good budget. It's a conservative budget. It's a conservative budget, I feel. It makes some estimates, but you could estimate 20% for health insurance, but we were more conservative in the estimates. And I think that good for you, Sherry, because there's a lot of work that the financial staff goes through to make sure that it's solid. So thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the financial staff who put a bunch together. Sounds pretty engaging.
And Tracy too, because she works a lot on.
Tracy,
on that.
And Tracy, if you're watching.
You're watching.
Yeah.
She is. I think she is. Okay, great. So that's the budget presentation. I hope everyone comes out and votes for it. Votes for it and votes at the. We'll now call to order so that I'm going to need a motion to adjourn that part of the meeting.
So moved.
Second, Caroline, Laura, all those in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hand. Seeing no opposition, that motion is carried. We'll now call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for May 12th. With the first issue being public participation. Any public participation? General meeting? Okay, review of previous meeting minutes, pages 3 through 6 and 7 through 8. Take a look at the meeting minutes, page 3.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the previous board meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, Michelle and Sarah, any discussion? Seeing none, also vote, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes on page 3 through 6. Please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Seeing no opposition, that motion carries. Now we'll go to the second meeting minutes, which is the building committee meeting minutes of Tuesday, April 22nd.
Make a motion to approve minutes.
Second.
Okay, Laura and Caroline, any discussion on those meeting minutes? Hearing none, we'll move on to voting on those. So I'll vote on those meeting minutes of April 22nd. All those in favor by raise your hand and saying aye. Seeing no opposition, that meeting minutes carries as well. So we'll now move to financial report, which is 9 through 18.
So revenue is stable. We have received the final payment of real property taxes in April, so we're just about at 100%. Total expenses are about 7.5% under budget compared to about 6.5% this time last year. Salaries are on budget since we are fully staffed. We don't expect any unusual expenses between now and year end. We may have some lines that are slightly overspent, but this will be more than offset by other lines that are underspent. You know, trying to come up with a budget is a little bit like, you know, making a lot of guesses and educated guesses. There's a lot of things that we don't know, but we try to be as accurate as we can be about, the lines that we know we have more information about. Before I talk about investments, does anybody have any questions about the report? I don't know if you want to scroll up to actual numbers.
I just wanted to ask Sherry, just again for the public's benefit, when you say year end, you mean the end of the budget year?
The end of our
Which is-
fiscal year, which is June.
Which is June 30th.
Yes,
So we don't expect any unusual expenses between now and then.
correct, exactly, yes. Our fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th. I just want to make a note about investments. We did have a CD that came due at the end of April, and we reinvested the proceeds in a 2-month CD at 4%, which was virtually the same rate. We chose 2 months because it'll take us through the end of the fiscal year. You know, when we get to the end of the fiscal year at June 30th, we'll start looking to see what we need to do to manage our cash flow, make sure we have enough cash available to pay bills in July and August and September, but still take advantage of whatever, you know, the interest rates that are out there with whatever funding that we know we won't need right away, or that we can set aside to invest and hopefully get a little bit of a higher interest rate. Another CD and the treasury bill are due at the end of May, so we'll be looking at that and considering what our options are. And as I said, taking into account cash flow and what the rates are. And again, just a note that the fund balance as of June 30th, 2024 is just over 3.9 million. We'll know, you know, once we get through the end of our fiscal year and we have our audit, we'll know what the fund balance is as of June 30th, 2025, so we can update that number.
We've gotten a lot of questions lately, and there's been a lot of chatter online, so I'm just gonna keep clarifying some points, because frankly, budgets are hard to understand for a lot of people, and I think all of us, the board members, have to work to understand it a little bit. So I just want to go over that fund balance, or what we also call reserves. That does not mean that the library has $3,928,140 to play with. It means that that is our reserves. We need to keep 1.35 million of that in. We need to have that at all times, because there is a portion of the year in which we are not receiving tax revenue. And we need that cash on hand to keep the library operational. So although that is the true fund balance of the money that we have in the bank, a significant portion of that must be kept for operations for that certain portion of the year, significantly bringing down that number for what we have to spend on capital projects.
And that's because people don't get their tax bills till September. Our year starts in July. So we have to pay bills from July till September, and then we get our first tax payment. Just wanted to add the dates to it for those of us who are not.
Right, and there are libraries that don't have a fund balance to run for that part of the year, school district public libraries, and they'll take out a tax anticipation note to cover that until their tax money comes in, so they're paying interest instead of
Collecting interest like us.
just saying, it's like, it's.
And Jeff, or Sherry, it's still a small amount, and then a large amount, and then another small amount in terms of how it comes.
Well, the money comes in,
10%, and then
the school district sends our portion as they receive, we get our, they just take a ratio of the tax dollars to the school district, tax dollars to the library, they collect all those dollars together, and they send us their portion as it comes in. So what will happen, and I'm nodding at Tanya's over there nodding at me, as the money comes in, so it starts as a drib, right? So you get a little bit as some nice folks pay their tax bills early, and then we get a little bit, and then there's a couple of big payments that come in the middle, and then there's some smaller payments as people pay their taxes.
Okay.
And then finally, at the end of the year, the state makes the county whole, the county makes the school district whole, the school district makes us whole, which is why we just got that payment that brings us to our 100% of our budget year, finally in April.
And if somebody grieves and the grievance is, what's the word I want, passes, they
Approved,
get
yeah.
approved, then that money gets subtracted from both the library and the school district.
We'll pay that, we'll pay those checks back, it's
Yeah.
that tax issue thing.
Yeah,
And
we have we have a line on our budget, it's like an expense. That payment would be charged to.
Okay, so to what Caroline is saying, not only do we not get money until September, we don't get a lot of money in September and
Right.
October, so we're still needing to draw on those reserves.
Yes, and those reserves are also, of course, there if there is something very unexpected that happens. I'll just give an example. We almost left, about this time last year, wasn't it? We almost had a car drive through
our front doors.
our front doors. If that had gone the other way, we would have had some significant immediate expenses to deal with. That is what the reserves are there for.
Well, we just had the window break in the children's space. Yeah, we need the reserves.
Okay, any questions on the actual bills or the cuts of the financial report for the new investments? Okay, we can move to investments. Did that,
I did talk about.
okay. Any questions on the treasury report in total? We need to accept this, right?
Yep.
So I need a motion to accept the financial report. Yeah, second, Laura, thanks for the discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes or raising your hand. Seeing no opposition, that motion carries as well. Personnel report.
Okay. Okay, so this month I have only one action requested. We have a librarian who is leaving the library for other parts, and I'm seeking to backfill that position.
Do we have to approve it?
Yeah.
It's the adult services. Library.
I'll
Sorry.
second.
Sorry.
Oh, I just couldn't hear what you were saying.
The adult services library and so we'll be motion to approve it.
Gotcha.
To approve filling the adult services.
Okay, there's a motion on the table, second,
And
Sarah. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying yes or raising your hand. Seeing no opposition, that motion is carried. Approval of fill.
Appreciate that.
Director's report.
Okay, here we go. Got some new furniture in the teen area. People love those teen chairs, but they were gross. I'm sorry, they need to go. So we've placed those. We've also put some new chairs in the periodical section, which has allowed us to take some of those chairs and move them out and create a little bit more seating in the rest of the library as our sort of the amount of use that we've seen in the library continues to increase. There's going to be a little bit of a makeover for the staff kitchen that's coming in after the Memorial Day weekend. We'll get going on that. And then the boiler design project's got the 2 proposals in for the boiler design time project. We'll be talking about that later in the
I was in here one night last week in the teen section. I think all the seats were full and it was
Yeah.
very nice to see it being used.
I'm glad it's being used too, and I know that there are some people that were really emotionally attached to the purple chairs, but you know, being a 20-year-old fabric chair, they've been totally reupholstered once. It's okay to let those go. We had a new someone has an item out for a long time, which I know so few people actually do, but if you had it so long that you would get billed. We have new friendlier emails that go out. So this language is not controlled by the system, it's controlled by the library. We've heard in the past that the language that was on the bill notices was a little bit harsh and people were upset about the email spoken to that way. So using our patron point system, we were able to customize that wording for Bethlehem and remind people that they had this item out for a long time and they need to bring that back. So that's out and working right now. Some folks may have seen those. We are doing a bit of a refresh on some of the library of things items. New telescopes are there. There's a thermal camera. This thermal camera for the housing audit, for like being able to look at your house and see where the thermal leaks are, incredibly popular. always a long hold list on it. So we've got a new one of those. And then,
The second one or just a?
So it's a second one.
the second
Two
one,
then.
yeah, but they don't sell that model. The model that we had doesn't exist anymore because it's many years old. So we have a new one.
Okay, great,
So,
great.
and some new refresh selection of board games out there too. So just a little bit of talking about that outreach that Gail was talking about earlier. The circulation staff issued 57 new library cards at the high school. Some of them were set up in advance, but many of them were done live right there at the time. The circulation staff were paired up with the public services staff at the high school. And it's just nice to have that functionality that just a couple of years ago was difficult to get done, to be able to do live circulation stuff outside the building. So it's kind of nice to have that. We celebrated National Library Week up big in the library this month. It's National Library Week. And we did, we hosted the PBS documentary Free for All. It was here. We had Tim Burke and Jeremy Johannesson, who are library advocates and former system directors, come in and talk to the public about that PBS program, which we got to show here earlier than it released out to the public. We had other interactive displays, and the staff made cardigans, which also kids got to do over in the kids' room to do their library and cardigans. So that was fun. Just a little report on the Digital Times Union. We added that this year as part of those digital collections that we were talking about, and demand increase. So just in April alone, we had that access 280 times, which for an online database is just a lot. So very popular. New York Times, Times Union, accessible, full text, online to our users, people who live in the Bethlehem School District. Anybody in the world can come into the library and access it on our terminals if they're here. But for the folks at home, if you live in the Bethlehem School District, you get your library card and access that. So just a little plug for the Times Union Digital.
How many people can access it at the same time? Is it limited or?
I don't think it's limited. If there is a limit, we haven't hit it. So it's not, it's just, we're very happy with the results of the database and the how quickly it was picked up. The addition of the New York Times and the Times Union have been so popular that Frank and the Adult Service Department is looking at how we can offer like a little pack of newspapers. Some different newspapers. So, because clearly there's demand for that. And again, that's that in almost all of it is remote, right? So it's accessible here in the building, but that's not where people are accessing. They're accessing it in their homes. So just a small class about how to do audiobooks. Audiobooks are popular, but many people, the technology can be a little bit of a barrier for them. We're nervous about how to access these new ones, but we ran through physical CD audiobooks, which are not going away. The use of them is dropping, but we have no anticipation of getting rid of that collection. So physical CD audiobooks are still a thing. So are the playaways, Libby, Hoopla, all of those different options for people to get their audiobooks. Casual Moms Meetup, which is fun. Competitive puzzling returned and continued to be ever popular. They went to a 500-piece puzzle this time and timed folks to see who could puzzle fastest. That sounds.
Do you know what the time?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Lots of other good programs. We did the Listen and Learn, continues to be popular. That was the Free for All program. The Boater Safety course, I don't know. I think we just keep running that forever as far as I can tell. It's full every time. This one was advertised out in the footnotes first. So the link was live in the footnotes. So people who receive our footnotes got first crack at that. And then if there were any available seats, it went out and it's on the web because it's registered through the state.
And is it gonna happen again?
I don't know. I have to talk to the librarians. I think
I have to take it.
yeah, right. You gotta take it if you have a motorized boat. So scams for older adults continues to be very popular, and we partner with we offer this in several different ways. We partner with town senior services, and we also do some of these sessions on our own. So that's evergreen. And then our virtual author talks, I just always want to mention this. They had, I think we had Jodi Picoult last month. So there's popular authors, and it's a way for us to offer a really quite A-list author talk for people digitally online, and they're recorded and saved. So if you miss it because you're not available at that time, you can watch them later. They're all up on our website. So I like it. I think it should be, it's used quite a lot, but I think it should be used even more. It's a good service. Youth services and lots of good stuff going on. Again, National Library Month, they were celebrating all month over there with their cardigans. And then just the important part to park out here is the outreach programs for the summer reading. We're going to be in the schools just a bunch over the next month as we get ready to advertise summer reading program for the kids as they're wrapping up their school. And then continued super high attendance at movement and music, music and movement, and then just all of our other early literacy programs continue extremely well. And again, if you want to know why the community room isn't available in the mornings on weekdays, it's because we're doing those programs. Super happy about that. Earth Day Everywhere and lots of other, the Silent Wings were here at 135 people in 2 sessions. Anything that involves a vulture or an owl, anything with those grabby feet, you can just fill the room anytime. So that was during vacation week, and we've got some good stuff coming up, animal stuff this summer for summer reading. So, and then a couple of really good outreach events, always high attendance and popular. So we did have Paul Conderson was here. It's a little bit old news by now, but we did get some good press for that, both in print and in the paper. I was pleased to be on the panel for that, talking about those questions about federal funding and what does that mean for our library. We're looking at a cloud-based phone system. No one cares about that, but we do. It's important. And then talking with the Friends of the Library, they're doing lots of activities, bus trips and a book sale. And we're going to talk about the book sale. We'll do that later. Okay. And then we met with folks at Albany County. We'll talk about the healthcare consortium later in the meeting. And then for the shelves of support. So for those of you who know, when we get sort of larger donations, we've created the shelves of support. We had a patron who donated one of the original shelves from the old library on Adams Place. And I know there was some talk among the board to try to get something that looked a little bit more shelfy to do that. So we're going to use that shelf for that. And we're going to come up with something that sits on those shelves to recognize those donors. It'll go in the same place right where it is right now. So we're working on what that looks like. And then
That's a nice donation.
it's a good one. Yes. Yeah. We don't really have, I think people were so excited when they left the Adams Street. It was so small for what they needed. They were so excited to get into the new building that there's not much here sort of physically. There's a lot of records and there's pictures, but there's not much about that, the old Adams building. And so it's nice to have a piece of furniture. But there's a couple of chairs, but those chairs need to go. There's it's nice to have that piece of furniture. So I was pleased to be able to bring that home, and we'll put a little plaque on that and tell people about one of the original shelves from the older library. And the most boring thing ever I have done, talking all over the state virtually about the HELPS program in civil service. Anyway,
For those of us in government, the HELPS program is not boring.
I understand.
Great.
Yes. So this is something that libraries like us across the state have not been paying much attention to. We are really very lucky here, and a shout out to the Albany County Civil Service Department. They were on this from the first second it was authorized for local municipalities. They were right on it. That has not been the case across the state. So that program is sunsetting at the end of 2026. So scheduled to sunset at the end of 2026. And so I'm out there telling some of the other libraries that they need to talk to the civil service agencies and get on this. So that is that. I don't think there's any particular statistics that I wanted to point out, just this continued big increases in the ebook lines down here, 16% increase in the audiobook, the e-audiobook use, big increases in ebooks. So it's just, that's just a ton of demand there. And I want to shout out to our Upper Hudson Library System, and the libraries that are members of the Upper Hudson Library System were on this early, way back in 2011, have been contributing significantly to our collection relatively early. And we are in a much better place than we compare ourselves to the systems that are nearby, where they're a little bit later on the gun, getting that collection built up, getting that e-collection up and robust enough to actually be useful. So not just having the most popular titles, but actually having quite a broad and deep collection there that goes back now more than almost 15 years goes back, that collection. So We see very high circulation rates, particularly for our population and, right across the board. So we see Bethlehem has a high circulation just all the time. We're one of the highest, but also the system as a whole, people contribute to this shared collection. It really is truly a shared collection among all the libraries in our.
I don't know what the helps, I don't know what helps is.
Yeah, so,
Here's the expert.
yeah, I can tell you all about it if you want
Here's
to.
the library expert, here's the state expert.
It was mostly for the state, but has been allowed for local municipalities. Competitive jobs that would normally have required an exam do not require an exam.
So anyone can apply, it's open.
If
Can
you
we
meet-
request that as a change to the,
If folks are in Albany County, it's already handled.
it's already handled?
So Albany County was, like I said, they were on it with us. We asked, we were on it. We asked for inquiries early. They came back and said, we are way on this, and they've applied that right across Albany County Civil Service. But right now, like for instance, this library one that you just offered, we can solicit for that, and people do not have to take an exam. They just have to meet the minimum qualifications for the position. So it's just like hiring. Our hiring process temporarily looks like a regular, normal hiring process rather than this more complicated civil service.
But it does not make the positions at-will positions, it still
No.
makes the position
No.
civil service position.
There's still, so that's
So they
a,
still go through the probationary period and,
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Why doesn't?
this it's really significantly widens the pool and makes it a lot easier, reduces some hurdles. We, my talking about this was actually, from an IMLS grant that doesn't exist anymore, but was called the Pathways to Librarianship. That was about reducing barriers for librarians. How do we bring people into the field? Because it's a pretty insular field. How do we make it easier for a wider group of people to be able to come into librarianship without having to know about it? And civil service was identified by the group as one of those barriers. So right now I'm just saying, this is the chance. If you want to have a wide candidate pool, right now is this window of opportunity. We don't know how long. That's all.
thank you.
I just want to say thanks to the staff for all of the work on Library Month, especially Kristen. I thought that the digital outreach was really, really great. You were definitely upping your game on all of that. There was new posts every day, and I really appreciated it.
So there's a new social media committee that is made up of several staff members. So Kristen is a one-person shop. So she has elicited some help from some of the other folks to come up with ideas for that. And I think this was one of the first things to come out of that group. So I want to make sure that we not like, that's a lot of work. Kristen does a lot of work getting the stuff up there, but a lot of those ideas came from the staff.
And thank you for helping with some board outreach there. We hope to continue that through social media and other platforms.
Also, Jeff, I just wondered on music and movement, you had 108 people for one session. Did they all fit in the community room?
No, so when you see a number like that, what happens is, sorry, I'm trying to scroll to it, doesn't matter. What happens is typically for the kids, they don't stay in the whole time. So we could have 108 people, that's parents and children in that room. We haven't hit the fire code capacity of that room yet, but you're getting right up on it. So we are approaching, and that's more than we would typically allow for a program. And luckily, there's no chairs. There's some chairs, but it's not tables and chairs. So that's the max room we have available. But yeah,
Was it the same situation for the Birds of Prey?
So-
135.
that was over 2 sessions. So that's
Oh,
that's how we try to address that is we do a second session.
I see.
So people don't love a second session, but it's better than not being able to get your kids in to see the owl, right? So they can go into the library, hang out for a little while after they close the doors because they're at max. Then they allow folks to come in. Then those people have priority to try to come in on the second session.
Well, we have robust programming at our library, and as the nation as a whole moves away from paper books, it's nice that we're able to share our resources with the community, and they're educational and creative and a really good job all the way around.
All credit to the staff on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions for Jeff on the director's report? Okay, moving right along, UHLS. Lisa's not here today.
He's not here. There's the Upper Hudson Awards. The budget came out, the new state budget passed, so that's Upper Hudson. unlike our library, we're expecting about $26,500 a year in operational money. Much of the operational money for the system comes directly from the state. So that is a very, very important thing for how the system operates. So they're happy to see that budget passed, and they'll start getting their money, their operational money will start to come in from the state, which is good because they provide our courier, they provide the catalog, the online system that allows us to do circulation. All of the business that we do is provided through the system. So as well as other expertise, IT help, all of that stuff comes from our public library system. So that's probably the biggest news is there's a budget. Yay, they can start getting some money.
So they have a director.
They do have a director, thank you, yes, and
You forgot that.
I did forget that. So Chris Sagas, who has been the director of the Utica Public Library, was named as the director of the library system, and he'll be starting on June 2nd.
And he's very well thought of in the system.
Yeah.
For several people, be very happy.
I've worked with him a lot, and I'm happy that he'll be on the job.
Do you by any chance know the date of the annual award ceremony? Is that what
It's,
you want?
the Hudson Celebration, I have it, I do not have the invitation yet, it's going to be, I'll send it to you in email.
Okay.
It's that same Wednesday in June, it's whatever that, but I don't want to give you the wrong day. Yes, I can guess,
No,
I'll send it to you.
great. So moving on to new business, trustee office hours. We have some experience with that. I think most of us have done office hours, and we want to talk about everyone's experience and whether we want to continue. So I leave it open for anyone to chime in on that.
Thought it was such a good idea. And I do think it was overall a good thing that we tried it, and we did it. But unfortunately, we did not get as many people coming, you know, I mean, I had one person ask me a question, but only because I happened to be there, and it was a question really more for the staff to answer the board. So I've been thinking about it since the agenda came out, and just thinking that rather than us sitting here trying to think about well, how best to connect with the public, could we do, and staff can tell me to be quiet. You know, what if we did a very simple 2-question survey? How would you like to connect with the board? And give a few options and just see, and the second question could be, what hamlet do you live in? That's it, 2 questions. Just throwing it out there as an idea, again, rather than us sitting around thinking about maybe how we would want to engage with a board. I've seen a lot of different things online. I think maybe it would be worth putting it out there to people. How would you like to connect with us on email, social media, in-person events in the community, trustee office hours? You know, come up with a list of a few things, give them a chance to have another, and then ask them where they're from and see what kind of response we get.
That's definitely doable.
Oh, yeah.
No problem. So,
What are some other experiences or thoughts? Michelle?
I would just point out that the last time we surveyed the public on something, we did hear from a lot of people that they wanted to see improvements on the library building. But clearly, once that was put in front of everyone, the vote was completely the other end, polar opposites. So I would be careful surveying people should only receive answers from a select few, maybe from the most vocal and not from all of the patrons. I mean, I might suggest actually that we're always available via email, and then we might put more effort into responding faster, more regularly, that kind of thing. Just making sure that everyone's receiving a response.
Well, so I'm on that now.
I know you are now.
Yeah, so I mean, and so since I've been doing that, I think I've responded to 3 emails in the last month.
And thank you for doing that, sir.
And those are emails that come specifically to the board, not to Jeff.
Yeah.
People are choosing when to office hours. Just want to put this out there. Would it be more to the point if there were less of them, but at a regular time? Way that on first Wednesday morning of the month or the first Wednesday afternoon of the month, so that the first week of the month so that people would know, you know, between my arm and the personal stuff I'm working on, that's all I can ask, because I initially did them and then lately. But
But I think patrons have that same issue, whereas an email you can do anytime from your home, anywhere. But coming into the library to speak to someone, some people might be fearful of doing that.
We had talked at one point about just doing it at like 5:30, like before the board meeting kind of thing, like if you wanna come to mingle, come at 5:30 instead of at 6. No. At least that's a time that's already sort of set aside for this. I don't know.
I like that idea very much, but I also think that the office hours, even if they were not well attended, which they were not, although I think all of us did have some questions, it wasn't complete crickets. I think that it has value in two ways. I think that it has value in that, you know, there is the opportunity to come ask questions, and to some extent that is incumbent upon, you know, I think we have to give people multiple avenues to ask questions. If you want to come asking in person, if you want to send an email, if you want to come right before the board meeting. But I also think that the visibility of the board was important. I think it was important for patrons to walk through on a Saturday or on a Tuesday night and see that a member of the board was there. And I understand that that's a big challenge for people. I assure you that I don't have time for one more thing. But I think that was an important thing. If nothing else, then, you know, I watched a lot of people clock the fact that we were there walking in. They didn't have a question necessarily, but they noted the visibility, and I think that there is value in that.
So the reason I wanted to talk to Mark about putting this on here was we don't have any more scheduled right now. So we were kind of at a natural stopping place, and maybe a good time to look back and think about before I asked Jen to identify a bunch more dates. We were trying to put them at times when there would be larger programs here in the library, so the serendipitous someone walking by would be a little bit higher, try to put it at high traffic times. So so I appreciate the conversation. You can do whatever your will is, we will make happen. So
Yeah, I was thinking we need to publicize the emails again. And is there a way you can do it virtually? Can you know, put a couple board members on Zoom? And have people come in. Can you do that? They came from the library as well as in person.
I would be happy to welcome people to a summer reading program.
Okay.
Just say hi, welcome, we're happy you came to a summer reading program. I'm happy to be here. Once my schedule, I should be around during the summer, and I will be happy to do that if that's.
Caroline's gonna correct me in some way, I know, but I just wanna make sure that I'm being in a very positive way. I just wanna make sure that we're staying in our lane as far as trustees. Because our job is to manage the finances of the library. Not so sure it's to be part of the summer reading program.
The
So,
ambassadors, I mean,
I think Gail was not correcting you,
Yeah.
but if I'm correct, Gail, you were talking about an extra.
Yeah, I was.
An extra that the board saying, come read. I think,
no, I understood that that's what she was saying.
but are you asking if that's like against our bylaws, or if that
Not
is?
really against the bylaws as much as perhaps we should focus on the finances of the library and not so much on star power.
Well,
I can't think of another way to put it.
the reason I suggested it was because it sounds really silly. I went on a riverboat trip a few years ago, and the general manager of the boat greeted people when they left the boat, he handed them their umbrella, and when they came back, he was the one that gave you your hot chocolate or whatever. So he became a very approachable person. So I guess I would backtrack to is it that we want to become more approachable for people? What is it
And I
that,
would think a librarian would serve that in the library.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We were talking about board office hours, that's why. But I don't have to do that. I mean, I'm not, that's fine. If Jeff thinks it's more appropriate for me not to do that, or a board member. I don't have. It was just a suggestion. I think being here when there are programs going on is a good.
No,
I don't like the plan.
I think there's a balance. I don't think that Gail was suggesting that would, I don't think that if we chose to do that, I don't think that would come at the detriment of us managing finances, but it would be an additional commitment for all of us, which is hard. So something like that would have to be voluntary. But I think that we have heard two kind of competing things from the public this year, which is, you know, brass tacks, which is what you're talking about, but also people want to trust us. And to your point, in order to trust us, they have to know something about us. So I think that recommendations in that vein of how do we, again, not at the detriment of the brass tacks, making sure that we're addressing that first. But if there are certain trustees that want to take on extra stuff, you know, I don't think that that is, as long as it's not in lieu of our responsibilities, I think it's.
We have core responsibilities, I agree with that. Can we turn this back to you, Jeff, for what you think would be helpful in terms of that?
Well, I just want to add something in that, as everyone else has mentioned too, like I am extremely busy. I only did 1 office hours because that was basically all I could manage. I just personally feel like spending time doing office hours that nobody's really attending is not a good usage of our time. But I do think that if there are people that are available for, let's say, the Friends sale or the summer reading kickoff, that it would be fine if there's members of the board that are available to go to those events where there are going to be a lot of people there that we could interact with. I don't think it's a good use of our time to just sit around for 2 hours and maybe interact with one person.
Yeah, no, I think there's a diversity of opinion here, so I think we go back to the drawing board and come up with some options and we bring it back at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
can we put a bullet on the next meeting, already planned for it, of board engagement?
Yep.
Of how to most constructively do that, and I don't think that a survey is, at least if they can present ideas, because what you were suggesting was not an either or, it was a, you know, type in something that you'd like to, like, I'm happy to have those ideas.
And I mean, my thought was you'd have it so that you could avoid getting the same people, right? You know, you'd have you know, where we had the final 4 there, whatever, with the,
Yes, the picture.
brackets.
Yes.
you know, have a survey question, have it there on paper, do it in the footnotes, do it on social media, you know, do it in as many different places as we can so that we're hopefully getting as many people and as many voices. You know,
Got a lot of people on our weekly email distribution
Yeah,
list. I
email.
mean, it's a lot, so we usually do quite well.
What?
The weekly newsletter, it's got a really high open rate and sees a lot of people. So,
Well, and to speak to your point, Michelle, because I keep going down this same like train of thought too. And it's like this frustration that we feel like we asked people's opinion a million times and tried to deliver it, and then it turned out that was not what everyone wanted. But there is that other element of cost that was never discussed, you know, so we got their opinions, we did what we were tried to deliver what was asked of us, but we just never, we didn't say, what is the cost you will pay for these things that you want, right? So if we just do a survey saying, what would you like to talk to the trustees? I think that's a different kind of question that maybe we can get useful information from.
And maybe people don't want to talk to trustees.
Yeah, maybe
That could be
it's like,
the
we don't
option.
care.
we don't want to connect with it.
We have emails, we have information's online, our meetings are online.
We're perfectly happy, you know, that could be the answer to.
Yeah.
I will say though, that I don't think that any of our personal experience bears that out. I think
No, it
that we
doesn't.
all get questions a lot, and people, if they have an issue with the library and they know us, they're coming to us.
Yeah.
Hard to go for a walk in the neighborhood these days.
that's an official.
Because it's raining on them.
Right. That is an official part of your role, right? You're elected to,
Right.
there's 7 of you and you are representing the 28,000 people in the district, right? And that's, harvesting that information from the public and bringing it back here is.
It's definitely part of the role.
Can we get name tags like
Yep.
you have that have our name and trustee on them, maybe?
I mean, not
different color?
quite as nice as this one, but yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yes, of
thanks.
course.
I mean, I think that would also
You
be,
got it.
Some markers and some stamps.
I think that's a really good.
We own the means of production. So we will make your. You don't even have to send out.
Okay, moving on to trustee training.
Yeah, sorry, take my note here. Trustee training, so just this is your almost 6-month reminder, we're not quite 6 months through the year, but the trustees are required to have 2 hours minimum of trustee training every year. And I just wanted to have a brief discussion about how would you, I want to support you in you doing this, how would you like us to deliver this? With one codicil that training from Upper Hudson is going to be on a bit of a hiatus because new executive director. So it's going to take him a little bit to come in and get ready to deliver that trustee training from Upper Hudson, which is one of the big sources of trustee training. So there are lots available. I've talked to a couple people about this. If you have thoughts about what kind of training you'd be interested in, let me know. And I will see what I can do to bring it in. Through NILA, there's some good stuff through ALA. There's quite a bit of robust training out there.
Can we afford an institutional membership to United for Libraries?
Can we afford it? That's the decision for the board. Yeah. I mean,
I don't know how much it
I don't know how
costs.
much it is either. I can look that up.
That was where I did that class. I specialized in friends and trustees, and that's where I did that. So, it's being taxed.
I'll look that up and send it out to you.
I know that one year, I know Carolyn and Mark were here for it, where we had people in and we were in the, I think she was local. And she was a trained mediator, I think it was.
From the diversity training that
Yes.
that was Upper
Well,
Hudson.
no, not diversity training, because I thought that was virtual.
Okay.
This is, the woman came in and she had us do like personality tests and how we could work
Yeah.
as a group and all of
Yeah, I
that.
remember that.
But at least,
Yeah.
at least all of us were together. It was a one-shot deal. We were
Was
able
there
to bring
food?
someone in. We could make that happen. So anyhow.
Yeah.
Sorry,
the thoughts
So like
of-
board communications.
Try
No, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Gail.
Yeah, I
I'm
remember
sorry.
they did this, I remember the surveys and filled them out, and there was a discussion about, style.
Right, I'm not suggesting we repeat that program.
No, but no,
I just meant
a group
the
training
setup of
versus
it.
individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're, and that's kind of my question is, some libraries, they set you free on Web Junction or with ALA and you go and watch their webinars and then they either come back and report or they just get their individual training. Or would you prefer a group training? So that's.
I've been thinking about like de-escalation training or something like that, like something that, we've had a lot of contentious public meetings and I wonder if something, not necessarily that, but something along the lines, of public interactions and how we can.
I'm happy to learn about any topic, but I agree that I ever since I've been on the board, we've always done it as like a group, and I like that.
That's
I
one
would rather
continue.
do a
That's-
Group as
I
opposed
think
to.
we-
That's what I'm asking, right?
So how about we do this? How about in the next 10 days, roughly, everyone send Jeff an email on what the group would like to be trained on. And then we'll collect it and then come back with, okay, here's the top, here's like what people said.
Okay, we'll figure out how we can deliver that. You bet.
Cool.
Are
Let's
there
just-
some, like, is there like a list of topics too, like that we could,
I mean,
or is it whatever,
I mean, but the mandate's pretty wide open.
It is, but it has to be delivered by someone who's
Yeah.
authorized to deliver the trustee training. So that's,
But the content of the training
correct, is up to you.
is up to
Yeah.
the who people get trained.
Could someone maybe just send us the links to where the training is, like if there was a list of training somewhere?
ALA.
Sure, I'll send that out. I'll send that to everybody.
Yeah,
It's just easier. I know.
No,
I can
it's-
Google
no, it is.
myself.
no, it is easier. Okay, HVAC repair.
Okay, so under the realm of unexpected expenses, sorry, Sherry. You said you weren't expecting any unexpected expenses. Well,
Well,
It's mostly
we
true.
have been talking.
you
about
were.
it.
Okay, so this is different than the boiler. So this
Unexpected
is.
Oh,
This is
oh,
correct.
oh,
That
oh, oh.
boiler,
Well, you
boilers.
didn't talk to me, you didn't tell me something.
I know, that's my fault. I accept it. So, we have had gremlins in our heating system for a long time. And, we had a major HVAC renovation in 2018. And that basically. Let's talk about HVAC, I'm sorry about this. That was to replace the rooftop units on top of the building and down to something called the variable air volume boxes. All of that hooks up to many other parts of the HVAC system that were not included as part of the renovation and not really looked at as part of the engineer on that program, which is another part of why I don't particularly like that engineer. So that's not an engineer we would probably like to use to work with. So in Kevin's infinite patience and frustration trying to bird dog many of these problems out himself, we finally came to the conclusion that we needed both a computer tech, and then a mechanic to come into the building and basically do a recommission of the system to make sure all the parts of the system were working. As they went through the building and found the things that are wrong and they need fixing, lots of valves and valve actuators. I found out a lot about those. There are some problems with the new 2018 air handler units on the roof, particularly the one that governs this side of the building. But much of this is in the rest of the all these VAVs, as you see here in this proposal. A lot of this stuff is in the rest of the building, and they put together a proposal for us to fix all of this and ran it through the New York State contract and on the terms of our existing train service contract, and have a proposal in front of you for $33,589 to repair the identified problems with the HVAC system. So this is above my authorization limit, but absolutely needed repairs on the system in order to make sure that the system can work as efficiently as possible, and not just efficiently, but also effectively actually provide the heating and cooling to the parts of the building that it's supposed to. We are lucky in that the main part of the library building, what I would consider, where the people are, not on this side of the building, the hallway and this side of the building, not great. On the other side of the building, the main part of the building, good. And we saw this winter, no one was complaining that it was overly cold, but as you get to the edges of the building, particularly some places in the study rooms, some of the offices back there, just really cold. And because the system isn't working as it's designed, because it's not hooked up and the pieces are not communicating. So I'm asking for you to approve the expenditure of $33,589 to train for our repairs.
This would come from capital expenditures or contingency in present.
Capital expenditures, is absolutely a capital.
Yeah, okay, so we've only spent 11% of that budget, so we
Correct.
have adequate money.
It's all there.
Okay.
What happens if we don't do this?
The system will continue to not function, and I'm imagining going to be worse as time goes on. There's a lot of pieces of the system that aren't hooked up to the brains part of this, where they're not effectively communicating. And then really, if you were asking me what's the most important part about this RTU, rooftop unit C, this is just that device hasn't been right. It's way out of its warranty. It's just not right, and it needs a lot of work, and that's what's proposed. So that's a big piece of equipment.
Are there avenues that we need to explore to do this in a less expensive manner, or is this pretty much the way to do it?
In my opinion, the breaking this up and doing it separately and waiting longer to stretch that out is going to increase the cost of doing this work.
Is Train the entity that?
They're a service provider. They provide, they are the mandatory provider in that HVAC project. The winning bid installed a Train control system. So you have the digital part of this computer piece of this. They were the winning bid for that chosen contractor for that. And they are the mandatory service provider for that, so.
It's not a question of going to a different vendor. This vendor, the vendor has to match the digital system in this case, but
It doesn't have to, but they are the ones that provide the service to the system and are familiar with our system and to get someone up to speed on what needs to be done. This is the group that provided the recommissioning for us and found issues with the system. They weren't the installer of the system, it's original pieces of this equipment that have been around since the 80s or maybe even longer, when they replaced the electric heat in the building with the first gas-fired systems. When people found out that electricity wasn't a good way to heat an inefficient building like this. So I think they're best positioned to do that. It's below the bid limit, even though, and even that wouldn't necessarily matter because it's under the terms of New York State contract. So.
Okay, I need to repeat this. So we have the boiler. Boiler has an air handler.
No,
It does not. have
no,
an air-
boiler is, take the boiler
This is totally.
and put the boiler
separate.
way over here.
That's why I needed to repeat it back to her. I wasn't sure if they were
Right.
related.
So the boiler and these air handlers that are up on the roof meet in the rooms and they interact in these variable air volume boxes. Okay, so there's air that comes in and then it is reheated by the water that comes in. So the hot water's coming from the boiler, the air's coming in from the air handlers, and it gets controlled, like the fine control that happens with what temperature actually gets dumped into the room happens with the union of the boiler and the air.
And we have an electronic CAD that figures that out.
It's it's a whole computer system that is the brains of that system that tells, I'm gonna call for this temperature air from these air handlers. I want this room, I'm gonna open up a valve a little bit more, and much of the problems in the VAV boxes and beyond are valves that are frozen. So the valve needs to be replaced, or an actuator, which is the little motor that makes the valve, like we don't go around and turn the handle, the actuator makes that thing turn. So lots of those aren't working, some of them aren't communicating back to the system. So the system says, I'm calling for this temperature, and it just doesn't move, right? So Kevin has done just a ton of work to find out all of the issues, and then there's just a level beyond which Kevin's not qualified to. It just doesn't, it's complicated and you need help on this, so.
But so I'm understanding correctly, it is like two different systems, but they do like work together.
They do.
So if we're gonna be replacing the boiler and making that better and more efficient, it really makes sense from that standpoint that this
Correct.
also needs to be working.
Yes, but the boiler is nice because that's a carve-offable piece of the system that can be done as a discrete project. The boiler is the boiler. The boiler is supplying, here's some hot water. And then lots of options about how you supply hot water, like different efficiencies and how you do this. But it is a relatively simple piece of this. It is one of the most simple pieces of this. But they all do interact with each other, but the air handlers are Batman, the boiler is Robin. I don't know, that's the best I got. It's important, does good work, but it's definitely a secondary
I
part of
said
it.
there were gremlins though. Well, who's Gizmo?
Yeah, it was Gizmo, there's all over the place. Gizmo.
So, I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I got another question.
Okay.
Notice on page 31, it talks about tariffs.
Yeah,
The fact that trains shall have the right at its discretion to pass along any related increase should its cost related to manufacturer's supply and shipping of the product materially increase.
yes,
This includes but not limited to cost increase of materials. So are we agreeing to a contract for $33,589? Are we agreeing to a contract of $33,589 plus any tariffs that they say affect this?
I think if the tariffs come back in, we would authorize all of them. Be prioritized. Do what we can do on the trades.
So the board is authorizing contract for $33,500.
Say do not exceed, and that's your direction to me, and that's that.
what is the projected timing of the repair?
I think it can happen pretty quickly.
So
Yes,
potentially before tariffs go into effect.
or
It'd be
if they go into effect, I don't know,
We negotiate there, right, it's all in.
I mean,
flux.
it's
They're
all
not-
a day-to-day.
No, but it just says
thing.
that they have the right at its
Okay.
discretion to pass along the
I think
increases.
they are, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So they can raise the cost of the contract.
they can, and then we.
So I'm not sure if I would want to agree to this, because it should be agreed upon discretion. It shouldn't be the one party saying, I can just add the tariffs on at my discretion. It shouldn't be a negotiation between the two parties. I mean, and this is pretty wide open that the train can,
It
has
includes
the right
labor. It
at its
includes labor.
discretion to pass along any related increase.
I think we can put like, we can work with them to put language around that to potentially soften it. If tariffs go into effect,
I mean, so
I
is the
think that-
price going up of 33,589? Is that the price, or is it that plus at their discretion, whatever they want to add?
I think to
I
your
mean,
point, we could have a discussion with them about this particular clause. We can write it a number of different ways. We can say that, I mean, we could do a number of things. We have notice that we agree to have it, shall be mutually agreed upon. We could say we'll pay a certain percentage of the rising costs and that cost shall be mutually agreed upon again, things like that. I think we could rewrite that to make it, like I said, softer, just not keep the ball entirely in their. And I presume that since they are a longstanding business partner, that they will work with us in some way, because I'm guessing this is a form agreement of some kind.
So do it as a do not exceed.
I would guess too, that someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but if there were tariffs and raw materials prices were increasing, that will be the case for any service provider.
So I think
I think it should be at least noticed. It shouldn't be like, oh yeah, the contract's now $39,000 because
Yeah.
but
we at our discretion, you know, we're interpreting the tariff law to say where it's gonna cost you more, 6,000 more.
But what I'm hearing is
Yeah.
this has
Or
to be
executive
done,
order.
it has to be done.
Well, I think the two of you make a good point together, which is that what you just said, Michelle, is that we should assume that any service contract now on that has raw materials in it will include some sort of a tariff clause, and that we should pay, we understand I understand it's a part of doing business, but we need to pay attention to it, the wording of it, and negotiate it to any extent that we can.
But you still need this to offer.
I do.
So
I need a motion on this.
Alright, so I'll make a motion to authorize the director to retain trained technologies for services related to HVAC repair.
Second.
And I'd like to amend the motion to say, and the cost should not exceed $33,500.
And that you say as a tariff clause is renegotiated to the.
Okay, so we have the original motion and then we have two amendments.
Did you get that, Kristen?
Got it?
So the cost not to exceed, and then if there's a tariff,
Yes, to renegotiate the tariff clause so that it is not unilateral.
So we can vote on the, all of it together, or we can vote on the motion as amended. So I
All
think,
that together.
okay. So, so Michelle's got a motion on the table. It's been amended twice, second by Sarah. Any just further discussion on that motion or the amendments? Okay, all those in favor say yes. Say yes or signify yes by raising your hand. See no opposition. That motion is carried. Thank you. Motion as amended twice. Okay, boiler replacement design.
Okay.
So this is the CS Arch boiler replacement design proposal for us.
Yes.
That we talked about at the building committee. Anyone have questions on it? It's a $24,000, $200
Estimated cost.
estimated cost. Any questions on this? These pages 39 through 42.
I guess I'll just make a comment again for the public's benefit that we received two proposals related to the boiler replacement design at the building committee meeting. It was I believe earlier this month.
Yeah.
We considered both proposals. And the other proposal was from Ashley McGraw. And we decided that this was the proposal that best suited our needs in terms of cost and in terms of dates and in terms of work. And decided to put it to a vote at the board tonight.
And there were a number of references checked
Yes.
on the firm and was very locally, and all of the references were quite positive and quality and efficiency of their work.
And this estimated cost is significantly lower than what our construction manager thought it would be. I don't even know what I should say.
This is for, but I actually
Just for
don't,
design.
because this is just for the design. This doesn't, this is absolutely not for the boiler replacement. This is for,
Still lower than his design contingency.
Yes, correct. So this is for the design of the boiler.
Yeah.
I did particularly appreciate the design phase, and timeline here. If this works, because SED is apparently at a record minimum time for review, if that happens, and I can get SED approval back, there is a possibility that we can apply for a construction grant this year. So that's good, because we'd like to get some money back from the design. You can't get any money back from the design. We can get money back for the construction when eventually that construction gets bid out publicly. So,
And just another reminder that as a school district library, we are required
Yep.
to get this design by SED, our overseeing agency, I believe it's by design professional, by an architect or
correct.
engineer.
You have to have an architect or engineer with stamp plans, goes to SED, reviewed for life safety. And then they come back with their.
Any further questions on this proposal? Okay, any motion?
Motion to approve moving forward with CS Arch for the boiler replacement design.
Okay, second.
Yeah.
Michelle, Laura, Michelle, for the discussion. All those in favor, signify by raising their hand and saying aye. Seeing no opposition, that motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, Albany County Healthcare Consortium.
Consortium,
We
okay.
mentioned earlier in the meeting, but.
Mentioned it briefly, and you've heard me talk about this a little bit. So Albany County was directed by the legislature to create a municipal healthcare consortium, specifically for that it would to include the smaller governmental units in Albany County as an option to try to control healthcare costs. So many of the villages and libraries were included at the end. But the towns, cities, villages that are in Albany County are experiencing a lot of the similar issues with healthcare that we are, in the hopes of containing those costs. Albany County is looking to apply to the DFS, which is the Department of Financial Services, to create a municipal healthcare consortium. So it's only open to municipal entities in Albany. So we have an opportunity to join that application. However long it takes to get approved and come to exist is still up in the air, and that's determined by the state. And the relationship between Albany County and the state for that application. As it was described to me from the county, it is easier for us to drop out of this proposed consortium than it would be at some point in the future to get in. If you get in after I've looked at the plan document or the charter document for creating the consortium, it would require a 2/3 vote of all current existing members to be allowed in. I don't want to create a false sense of urgency, and absolutely, if we don't decide to move forward with this now, there would be opportunities in the further future for us to potentially join them, but there's no guarantee that we're allowed to get in. At this point, we are allowed to get in on the ground floor because we are a municipal entity in Albany County to join with their plans. We have done a review of their plans, the plan that the county offers. And I think it's likely that in the past, if this had been proposed 5 years ago, we would have looked at the rates for the healthcare plan, and we may have said, well, that's more expensive than what we're paying currently on CDPHP. But because their increases have over that same 10-year average been 4 or 5% a year, and our long-running average is more like 8 to 10 or edging up higher than that. The costs have crossed over, and we are at the inflection point probably this year right now, where those plans are at parity. And if there is an opportunity to contain healthcare increases in the future, I think that's important for us to explore. So, with that said, also the union has a say in this because they are the ones that would, with us, determine what is the most substantially close plan to what is currently available. So if we decide to move forward with this, you want to authorize me to sign the document that would put us on the application for Albany County. If the union was wildly against this, that could be a source of grievance through the union contract. So I'm not interested in working in that way at all. I think it's if it's a better deal, this is financially a better deal for everybody involved. If it's better healthcare insurance, which I suspect that it might be, actually I feel that it is. I should say that right out. And we can offer that plan to our employees and contain increases in the future, then I think that's a good option that we should take. So what we would forego if we drop out, again, having read the document, is we could not apply to join for 3 years. If we put our name on the application and withdrew before the consortium was formed and started providing insurance, that we would then we would forego that chance to join them for 3 years. We'd just be saying, can't join them for 3 years. Future, if at some point it became advantageous 5 years in the future, we could apply it that. So what this buys us is a summer of a lot of exploration and conversations that happen both with the union, their membership. I've let them know that this is something we're looking at. They contacted CSEA. CSEA is much more familiar both with this plan and in their relationship with the county. So it's based on the plans that they have available for us are based on the healthcare plans of the county currently. So that would form the basis of the plan that the consortium would offer in the future. So they're definitely the largest member. The county has 4,000 people covered under their plan currently or more. And the other municipalities that are looking at joining: City of Waterville, Village of Voorheesville, Village of Manans, RCS Library. Voorheesville Library is, I think, in a very similar position. They're looking at this right now, and then us. So.
So
Yeah,
just
go
to
ahead.
clarify, so what Albany County has already been doing, they're just gonna kind of extend it to our other groups to join. So it's a new entity, but it's not like a brand new thing. They've already been doing it.
Correct. The insurance is existing. It's their existing insurance, and as the largest employer, it's designed theirs, right? So they're just offering. They were provided guidance by their legislative body that they needed to be able to make this offer out to other municipalities.
And this also would give us a seat on the board for the entity. And our understanding from the personnel committee was, if we authorize this tonight, there are still a lot of balls up in the air. So it doesn't fully commit us to being part of it. If, for example, the union says, we're not going to sign off on this, there are some employees who have high HSA policies, and Albany County does not offer that. So that's an obstacle that would need to be talked through, for example. But if the union, if the things that we have to line up don't line up, we can say, okay, we can't do this, and pull out with no penalty. And there's no buy-in, there's no financial buy-in.
Correct. I mean, it's a self-insured plan, right? So it's
Yeah.
a different way to look at insurance. It's not insurance, right? There's all these municipal healthcare consortia have their. That's why you have to apply to DFS, right? Because there's regulations how they do that. But we're self-insured for the insurance. There's a rate equivalent and it's similar to what we pay for health insurance right now.
Was there ASL rating?
It's Anthem, I think you
Anthem,
said.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Mostly-
I got a couple questions.
Okay.
So how many of the employees in the library are union? Approximately. It's not everyone, right?
Of the people who are eligible for health insurance, more than half.
Okay. So are you saying that the union can say no for the whole library or for the union employees?
Part of the municipal agreement is that you wouldn't be offering outside health benefits in addition to the health benefits authorized through this. So it really has to be a very cooperative thing. So everybody has to. I get what you're saying. I mean, you
So the
could,
union can block non-union employees from being part of this plan.
well, it's just you
And the
wouldn't,
other way around.
you wouldn't move, well, yeah, right. If you wouldn't move forward with a consortium, if it wasn't in the best interest of the library, right? That's not, we wouldn't move forward with that as an admin. In the same way, they would look at the plan, think about what the implications are and see if it's right for their.
The other piece, just to be clear, is we all know when we get an insurance bill that they have what the cost, what the absolute cost is, what the negotiated cost is, and then what you pay. The consortium would be negotiating and paying the negotiated cost. That's what self-funded means. The pool would be smaller because it's not 120,000 million people for a national insurance company that's insured directly with the insurance. And also, just as an aside, the federal government dropped CDPHP because CDPHP is becoming incredibly expensive to use as an insurance agency. So the federal government has probably 5 million, 10 million employees in New York State. So we may look
Okay, I
at
got a couple
maybe-
more questions. Let me ask my questions. So we can keep
I'm
going.
sorry.
That's okay. So when you say municipality, my list is city, the county's in,
Yeah.
villages,
Yep,
towns, libraries.
libraries, yeah.
What about fire district?
No, I mean, I think if there was a fire district that provided health insurance, that might
Okay.
qualify.
Is there anything I'm missing in your list?
Cities, towns, school districts are eligible, but I think the school districts have a separate
They have their own
healthcare
thing.
consortium, but they were in conversation. Not all school districts in Albany County or in Capital Region are member of the
School
Capital
district.
District, School District,
Okay.
Municipal, Healthcare Cooperative. So I think they were offered, and BOCES.
Proposals. And the way I read the resolution, it says you're authorized to execute an agreement.
Yep.
So that doesn't really, I'm not reading it to say there's any chance to pull out. It's just saying we're authorized to do it,
You're authorizing me to enter into the agreement.
right?
The contract that I would be signing absolutely includes a provision about how pulling out.
Point out means that you can't participate for three,
Three
that
years.
you're then barred for 3 years.
Correct.
essentially.
There's no-
And I trust you, however, this says in a form approved by council, that you don't have to bring the contract back,
That's correct.
right? So I'm not really comfortable with that. That's not a question that's.
I mean, it's all still extremely hypothetical. I mean, just the actual cost that it would, what the actual
Well,
healthcare
the
would cost
plan-
is probably,
plan-
yes, the
The
plan,
context of the plan is the county plan,
yes,
which
but
I'm not familiar with.
But I'm saying that we talked earlier about, the fluctuation of cost. So right now, we're at the point where we say yay or nay, we want to go on the application. When in their plan, they plan to submit the application approximately when?
June,
Okay, so anything to DFS, let's presume that it will take 6 months to a year
Right.
to finalize. So we're still a year out. And then at that point, then we know what, then at that point, we would understand what our plan, what CDP, what the current, our current plan is offering, plus what, and then we would see what the county is offering, compare the two. And at that point is where, that's the inflection point where I think that the union would have to make a call, wouldn't they?
they probably need to be involved before that, but yeah, until they see the
But until they
cost, they're not gonna make
until
a
they see the
final.
Side by side,
Yeah, I mean,
that's when they would say yay or nay.
No, I get that, but what's our role?
I mean, our role now is to decide whether we get in on the ground floor and
Something that we don't really know about. We don't have any detail.
We don't, but no one does. I mean, we haven't.
No, I get that, but I'm saying, so by authorizing this motion as it's stated, we're giving Jeff the authority to enter an agreement in a form approved by council. So
Oh, I see what you're
so if
saying,
the
okay.
agreement comes back that, you know, the plan could be not substantial coverage, county could be different, we could have non-union employees that don't like it. We've authorized him to enter the contract.
No, I'm sorry, and I misunderstood. I understand what you're saying now.
Right, so I mean, I don't know, I'm not really comfortable with just a blanket authorization. I want to see it on the way back around.
Can we ask that?
I mean, I know it's a leap of faith, so we're authorizing here. If we approve this motion,
That's true.
so.
But
On
if
people's
something were
healthcare,
to occur that you didn't like, where we could drop out with no penalty.
no, you can't get back in for 3 years. If we drop out of the agreement, we understand it, then we are blocked from joining it for 3 years. That's true.
Right.
Right.
But you were suggesting that they might come back with us, come back to us with other information that might make the plan less desirable.
Right.
So then you would drop out at them.
No, well, I'm saying that's what we're deciding here. I mean, we don't, that's our choice on the way back is to drop out. That's it.
Correct.
Not to shape the agreement.
No,
We have no say in the agreement.
You are correct in that the terms of the agreement are being dictated largely by the county
Right. So
and the other, well, they are, they're the big party and, and then the other municipalities, right? So it's.
I understand all that, but I have just a little bit of caution doing that, that's all.
I guess the question to ask maybe is whether the agreement has a comment period from consortium members. I would be surprised if it did in this context, but
I mean, we get a board seat, but we're not really gonna be a majority, because we have a small number of people.
Right, and it's everybody, every municipality gets a seat, and then there are additional seats based on the size of the.
Right.
Of the party, right? No, we're 100%,
Yeah.
we are a tiny piece of this.
so,
Would it help to add, in terms of your comment, to add, at number 1, shared municipal services program in a form approved by council and reviewed by the executive committee of the board? Would that satisfy your concern, Mark?
Yeah,
If we
but
just
I'm not
said-
sure,
I'm not sure they would let us.
they were not sure they would let us, because.
I think another question to ask, maybe we can ask is, a consortium agreement, is it generally, does DFS have a template for that? That they're essentially all of the same with maybe a few negotiated points, or is each one unique to the consortium? My guess is the first one, but I think that's.
It's by our council?
Yeah.
If that's by our council, why
couldn't we review it?
I don't know, I'm just saying, this was the motion that was presented by the
Correct.
consortium for us to approve, so.
No, this was a motion that was presented by another entity that wants to enter in. Jeff gave it to the personnel committee
Okay.
from Waterville. So we use Waterville as a template for what their government used. This has nothing to do with, this has to do with the board intent.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a lot, would help. My concerns if we approved by council and honestly, everything.
I think personally that you guys are on the executive committee, I trust you. I don't think it has to come to the full board.
Okay, or by the executive.
If people disagree with me, that's okay, but
I think that your base point though, Mark, is that we need to see that agreement before we say yay or nay.
Yeah.
But what we really, I think I just want to clarify what's on the table tonight, which is,
Yes.
one, we could say we'd like to see, we have questions, we want more information. When is the deadline to say we would like to join?
Oh, we're up on it because they want to
Okay.
put their application in. That was the
Why it's here too.
That's why it's here, right? So I like to talk about things a whole lot more than that typically. So this is under the municipal agreement is under review by our council right now. So
Like June 15th or like June 1st, do they want to put it in?
early June. Is what it was. I asked specifically if the June board meeting was an acceptable time to do that, and they said too late.
Well, we could put the
Call a special meeting.
executive committee, easy, they can be put together. Yeah, on Zoom, easy. Okay, well, then I would actually propose an amendment to the resolution that says the form approved by the council and the executive committee.
I guess I hate to prolong, but I'm not quite understanding to what end that we would review anything, because we won't change what the consortium is offering, and we won't change what the union will review and decide. So why do we need that to?
Well, I think we have a duty as the board to review an agreement like this. It could, it's the healthcare for our employees, possibly for all the employees, not just the union, of the library.
Ultimately, though, and I just want to place that reassurance is that the decision to withdraw or not withdraw from the consortium is under the control of this body. Right? It's not under the control of me. So if we get in, and they want to come in and talk to you, the folks in the county want to come in and talk to you, they want to come in and talk to the meeting, to the union. There's a lot of work to be done over the summer to talk about the specifics of the program. The decision to withdraw is your decision, not my decision, right? So passing this resolution that authorizes me to enter into the agreement doesn't eliminate the authority of this body to withdraw from the consortium, which
Is that authority in the
it absolutely
in the
is.
agreement? So I think
Yes.
at a bare bones, I think we just want to review the agreement to say that it says, we
Yeah.
love you. We
I got
believe you, but to say that it says what you're saying it says.
I only didn't agree to put it in the board packet because it was a monster. So I will send it to everybody. As soon as I'm done. You don't want to see it? Okay, fair enough. It's available. I will make it available.
So just to clarify from my head, I know this, everyone is just saying this, but I want to say it again. And so we say, yes, we're going to join, because really that's the preliminary step that we have to take. You would think we might even want to consider it. And then over the next X amount of months, as the process works through and we get more information, we can decide, okay, we're going to withdraw. This doesn't suit us. Right? I mean,
Yes.
that's.
Well, no,
Absolutely.
we and the union decide.
Well,
Union has a
right,
veto
right.
power. Well, we have, and we have a.
Right, you don't, just because the union has a say in the yes answer doesn't eliminate the board's absolute right to veto participation. I don't want to say, it's like
The
there's, a-
veto, the union says, yes, we want to do this definitely, and we say, no, we don't want to do that.
we're out.
Yeah.
That's it.
And if the union says, no, we're not doing it, and we say yes, then we're out.
You can, yeah, we're out.
So-
Change that.
Yeah.
No, you can, the union speaks for the union members, usually, they don't speak for all the non-union members. When you negotiate with the union, you negotiate with the members of the union, you don't negotiate with members of the union and the non-members of the union. That's
But
my-
we
my
can't have
negotiation.
two health plans.
Correct.
Right, so union has the power to kill the health insurance agreement for non-union members. I have a huge problem, actually.
That's just a reality.
I know it's
And,
the reality, but
and they
it doesn't
have-
mean it's right.
So there's two union seats on voting members of the board of the consortium. There's two labor representatives.
Library union members,
No,
right,
Labor.
CSC members,
Right.
which
and
are,
probably another union.
right. CSCA.
Yeah.
Right,
Which
Which
is their union.
It's their
our
union.
Right, like,
which represents the county employees. I mean, there are gradations of CSCA,
Yeah.
different locals that represent different things,
I mean,
they
I
have
think
different opinions,
it's all valid concerns,
right?
but like, I think we still just, my opinion, say
Yeah.
yes, and then start working through those issues after, because it
I
can't
mean,
move in
you
the
also
other
can pass it
direction.
without my vote, it's fine too, you know, that's okay too.
Can we have the agreement? This is what I make a proposal or a motion. That, Jeff, can you send out the agreement? My question stands about the provenance of the agreement. I'm curious whether it was drafted by county staff or whether I suspect it is a DFS template, which will actually provide more comfort to me. I'm wondering about that. And if everyone has a chance to review, I agree with Mark. I would feel more comfortable reviewing it, but I also agree that we're trying to get to yes. And that we hold a 5-minute, we gavel in for a 5-minute session. My apologies to everyone who is very busy. Next week or something.
By the time.
Next week's a little busy.
I think
We have a vote, an election.
Oh, that's right. I mean, we should just do it.
I mean, I'm comfortable moving forward with it and
Yeah.
then,
I mean,
How about this? I make a motion to accept it. Except unless, if there are any concerns with review of the agreement, the board, that a board member brings back, we agree to come back to discuss.
Did you want to add anything to the resolution or let the resolution stand as it's written? Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
okay, there's a motion, second, Laura, second, any discussion?
Did I hear you correctly, Jeff, earlier say that we were in a consortium for e-materials?
Yes,
And that we save a considerable amount of money being in that consortium?
we do.
And this consortium currently has 4 to 5% increases in healthcare each year, where we are experiencing 8 to 10 and much more this year.
Yes,
So it sounds like a significant savings if the
Maybe,
union accepts it. Yeah, so for those reasons, I too would be. But Carolyn has.
Yes, so I'm just gonna reiterate, I make a motion to move forward with telling the county that we would like to join the consortium with the caveat that if anyone on the board reviews the full agreement that Jeff sends out and has any concerns, that we all agree to come back to discuss if any of those concerns.
okay. Caroline made the motion, Kristen, you got it?
Yeah.
Laura seconded, any further discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes. All those opposed, I will oppose the motion, motion carries. Okay. Other new business. Other old business. Or not other, old business, building committee update. Who wants to get that? I was there. I'm tired.
It feels like a long time.
I know, we had minutes, so.
Well, I mean, really, at the last meeting, it's in the minutes, we just, we discussed the 2 proposals. And we arrived at the one that we voted on today, the two boiler design proposals. And we determined a list of priorities after the boiler, first and foremost, is going to be done.
Right.
Second, thank you, is the house demolition, and we are going to look into, we have not made any decisions related to the house demolition and parking lot repaving. We have combined those 2 because we are hoping to work with the town to do some of that paving. I'm looking at you because it was your proposal, and those 2 working together likely perhaps to diminish costs. And then the third is the asbestos abatement of the hallway popcorn ceiling and the roof drains. We have generally decided to let that one, the large skylight, which no one can touch, we're letting that be for the time being. And then carpet replacement will be discussed in the future.
Okay,
That cover it?
yep, thank you. Any other old business? Try to get it out of here. Okay, moving on to future business. I have one item, which is just a reminder that the Friends are having their book sale fundraiser on Saturday, but more importantly, they're having the book drop off Thursday, 12 to 4:30. So for everyone watching or everyone in the audience, if they want to get rid of good books, please don't throw them away. Please bring them to the book drop off Thursday between 12 and 4:30.
but if they smell like garage or basement, please feel free not to bring them.
Because
Or
because
if they're 10-year-old textbooks.
Correct.
right. Okay, any future business?
Are we doing the parade this year, Jeff?
Oh, yeah,
Maybe you want to give us an email on that?
Memorial Day Parade,
Yeah.
yeah, there's less. There's less structure to the Memorial Day Parade than there used to be, so I don't get a postcard anymore. We just know that we have a standing invitation, I'm gonna be there. I imagine kickoff's gonna be 11 a.m. as it always is. We'll line up on Ridge Road and on Memorial Day.
Are we all expected, is that a board expectation that?
No.
It's not an expectation,
It's
it's an offer.
We'd like to do it, it's a great thing to do,
And
but
we
it's
all wear our BPL t-shirts?
Ever you'd
whatever
like.
you want.
Whatever I am.
Whatever you like. We all do it some years, we all don't do it some years.
Yeah. I'll be there,
Jeff does it every year.
that's who's not optional.
That's the one who drive the truck.
But we're driving though, you're not walking, so,
That's right.
yeah, this is great. Okay, any public participation?
Yes,
Okay,
would you like me to stand?
sure,
Okay,
you'll be on video.
right, video. I am Ann Moore, you all know who I am, you know where I live. I've come today to talk about 59 Norfolk Avenue. And the fact that the project of tearing it down, purchasing it for $200,000, tearing it down for approximately $212,000. Then creating a parking lot brings us somewhere probably in the range of, I'm guessing, $600,000. Which is money, again, that has nothing to do with running this building. I suggest that you would be better off selling that house for what you can get for it, which for a house in Bethlehem these days is a great deal. That puts it back on the tax rolls, that provides you, first of all, with money from the sale, puts it back on the tax roll so that you are getting taxes from that property. Okay. In addition to that, as far as paving the parking lot is concerned, I have a real problem with the town helping you, because then, as a resident of both the town of Bethlehem and the Bethlehem Central School District, I get to pay twice. Town residents pay once, because they don't pay your tax. Only school district residents pay your tax. So I don't know if you've looked at it from that perspective, but I certainly do. Right? And you want to get the town of Bethlehem to do it, I guess there's nothing I can do about it, at least at this point. But the point is that every single school district resident, when you get the town to help, pays twice. That's all.
Any other public participation? Okay, I will take a motion for adjournment. Laura, second. Michelle, all those in favor, signify by saying yes or raising hand. Seeing no opposition, meeting adjourned.